Welcome back to In the Living Room with Stephanie Lopez. The topic of discussion today is financial money matters and investments. We all know that handling finances can be a daunting task. I'm thrilled to introduce an expert today, Dami Okenede. Today, she's here to help us navigate this sometimes confusing but essential aspect of our life. Will you please introduce yourself? And also, before we begin, please say a very short prayer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Stephanie. So, my name is Dami, like you mentioned. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be here. By background, I'm an accountant, I'm a chartered professional accountant. I'm also a chartered financial analyst. I run an accounting firm here out of Hamilton, but majority of my clients are in the GTA, GTAH area, and we specialize in bookkeeping, accounting, audit, assurance, taxation, mostly for nonprofit and charitable organizations. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I do professionally. And today we're going to be talking about, debunking money matters and talking about wealth and acquiring wealth and generating wealth. Yeah. Okay, so interestingly enough, I have done this topic, believe it or not, in the past 1 month. This is my probably the fourth time I'm talking about this very similar topic. So permit me to share the slides that I've been using. I think it will guide our conversation very well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so the last time I did it, it was under the topic of managing your finances in a distressed economy, but still for a Christian audience and for a women audience. But I think the teachings are applicable to both men and women. But um, the audience at the time was female, which is I'm also very passionate about financial intelligence for women as well. Okay, so what are your thoughts about money? Money is the root of all evil.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I would say it depends on how we use money.
Right. So the Bible verse is that for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, right? But the mindset that people throw that verse out quite a bit, right? I just wanted to correct that. And I think that before we can have productive money conversation, we need to really deal with how we see money and our mindset around money, right? So God has put us here, to make money, right? So it is the love of money that is the root of all kinds of evil, right? So when you use it, when you abuse it, when you worship it, right? That's when you can get in trouble with it. But money is not for a certain kind of people, is not for an isolated type of people or a few individuals. I think God has put something special in all of us to be able um, to do this and acquire money for a whole host of reasons, right?
Yes, agree.
Yeah. So I normally try to see, I mean, we don't have the audience, but maybe the audience can comment on if there's a comment section and let us know how they feel. How confident do you feel about your financial future on a scale of 1 to 10? Right. So depending on what people are at, that number could be very low ones. It could be midpoint or more towards the 10. But we can always improve on our score. We can always learn something about this and keep moving forward. Okay, another Bible verse on money is Deuteronomy 8:18. For you must remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to get wealth, so that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers as it is today. So this is just to showcase that this is what God wants for us, right? And sometimes we think, I'm okay, I'm comfortable. We think trying to acquire money is being greedy, right? Sometimes we think that, but how can you be a blessing to others, right? It's a means to be a blessing to others. It's a means to expand God's kingdom and do God's work, right? So we should never say, I'm comfortable. I think that's even more selfish to say I'm comfortable, right? And I'm not going to learn about this or try to acquire more, right? Okay. Yeah, so shifting the mindset. Um, our studies show that while the gap is closing, women in Canada continue to have lower financial literacy scores than men, right? So for those of us who are in relationships and have spouses, we tend to make this topic a man's role and not something we should be doing together, right? I think women are very smart in this money matters and money talk if we apply ourselves to it. Yeah, so let's change that dialogue. Let's help out. Let's be that helpmate and also take part in this money conversation and financial issues. Okay. See, another thing is that women tend to underestimate their financial knowledge. We can prevent them from investing or negotiating salaries, right? So this is also very common, even in my practice. When I do hire, it's usually the men that are asking for more before they start, right? At the time you're negotiating salary, the employer already wants to hire you, and for some reason, women are very scared or maybe don't even think about it, right? In negotiating salaries. So again, shifting that mindset that it's not greedy to ask for more, to negotiate your salary. Okay, so I mean, financial foundations. This budgeting part is huge. I think that this is something that we should all be doing. I look at my budget on an almost daily basis. I think we should all do a budget and do a follow up, right? It's not one thing to just look at your inflows and outflows and then, park it somewhere and look at it at the end of the year. I think we should be doing it at least weekly, right? Really tracking what we're spending. It's very easy to overestimate it. I think about it like when you're on a diet and you're thinking about your calories, you're thinking about it, but if you really write it down and track it, you'll see that you're really exceeding what you should be allocating to yourself. So and there's tons of tools out there now, right? There's a lot of apps, banking apps that we can use for budgeting purposes that'll track your groceries, really track your spending, really let you see how much you're spending, right? The budget is an estimate of how much money you make and spend over a certain period of time. It brings awareness to your spending habits. It allows you to do a reality check to see if your actual spending is more than what you think you should spend your money on, and then use the feedback to tweak your budget. Right? Oh, emergency fund. The recommendation is to save between 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. I'm hoping that the audience is doing this at a minimum. I think that for those who are in employment, sometimes when you do lose that job, it's even taking longer than 6 months to get it back, or to stabilize yourself. So doing the budget is important so that you can put money aside for this emergency fund, right? At the minimum, you should have 3 months, right? Because that's just how long it takes to replace income loss. Okay, Bible passage. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance and advantage, but everyone who acts in haste comes surely to poverty. So again, just this, when I think about money and the Bible, the principles that we need to acquire wealth, they're all Bible principles. They're all in the Bible, right? So it is for every one of us to tap into and run with it, right? So again, this is the Bible telling us to be diligent, right? Put money aside, put money away, develop the habits, right? It's more about the habit. It doesn't matter how small you can do right now. Some people can only do $5, right? The a session I did, some said they couldn't even do that, but I challenge you that you can at least do $5. The Tim Hortons that you go to every morning, or the Starbucks. I used to buy a Starbucks latte for $8, right? So you don't have to do that. You can put that away, and the plan is to develop the habit so that when you do come into more, when your financial when God blesses you with more, you already have that habit in place to really do this and put money aside for emergency fund and more. We're going to talk about doing more as well with money. Okay, investment. Investing for long-term growth. So no, so I know I talked about saving, but the saving that I'm talking about is really for that emergency fund, right? Beyond that, once you save beyond that, you really, really should be investing, because that's really what's gonna grow your wealth and make you wealthy, because savings is not gonna do much. Some people like to see their bank balance and they just smile, they see that big bank balance, but in reality you're actually losing money, right? Your money is not even keeping up with inflation if it's just sitting in the bank. So we really need to shift our mindset from savings to investment, right? So yes, please make sure you have your emergency funding. Please make sure you've done your budgeting. Please make sure you have enough. And then the next step in what you're saving is not to leave it in savings, but to really invest. Another Bible verse, Ecclesiastes 11:2. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risk might lie ahead. So here's the Bible talking about diversification, right? Don't leave all your eggs in one basket, right? Diversify. This is a big, if any financial advisor you meet, this is the first step in helping you invest your money. And this is rooted in biblical principles as well. Okay, basics of investing. So there's different types you can do, right? You can do stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, real estate. If you're gonna do the first four, sit with your bank, sit with a financial advisor, so that they can do this properly for you. You can be well diversified. You can ask your questions. The one I'll focus on a little bit more today is real estate. For me, it's my preferred spot to be in. Okay. Yeah, because with real estate, for me, first I can see it, right? If anything's happening, I really know where the property is. I can see it. I always say when I was 23 is when I got my first property, and my salary at the time was 40,000, right? I say that to say that it's not impossible, right? Some people say, I'm not making enough, or the market is high, or you don't have to stay in Toronto, right? You can move out. You can move out to Hamilton. You can move out to St. Catharines for that, investment property that can really work for you. Because again, savings is not going to take you far. Okay, credit. Of course, to acquire property, to do anything, right? You need good credit, right? And I want to challenge everybody to be aiming for 800 in their credit. It's not impossible. If you have bad credit right now, it takes 6 months to fix it, right? If you have lots of credit card, you only need one credit card to build credit, right? And you need room in your credit card. So if the bank is giving you more, I know that you may be scared of taking more room, but they really want to see that yes, you have 10,000, but you only use 1,000 of your credit card room, right? And you're paying it back on time. You're paying your bills on time, so that you can really build that credit score, right? I think bills is a big one. People just forget to do it, right? So you can always do like automatic payments. Make sure you're paying your bills on time, so that you can build your credit score. And so you do need credit. Credit is good, especially for capital asset purchase. That's good credit. Where you see bad credit use is if you're using your credit for paying bills, right? You're going on loans to pay bills, right? So yes, use the credit card, but make sure you're paying it back on a monthly basis, right? Sometimes I even pay my credit card and to the negative, right? It really just builds your credit score to show that you do have access, but you use it, you pay your bills, and you're good. You have a money history, so that when you do need that loan to buy a property, either for your home or to buy a property for investment purposes, you've already done the work and your credit is good. And that alone tells the bank your how you deal with paying bills, and it gives the bank that comfort that you will pay that mortgage if they give it to you, even before they look at your income, right? The credit gives that history to the bank. Okay, so remember we talked about savings and where to put. These are some places that you can put your savings in. These are government design programs, the TFSA, the RRSP, right? The RRSP is registered retirement savings plan. The plan is for you to have money in your retirement. When you do use it now, there's tax breaks from it. You get a tax refund. The tax-free savings account, whatever money you put in there, the interest is tax-free. You're not getting taxed on it. So, these are tools you should be taking advantage of. If you all have your CRM account, you can see your balances. So, like your contribution room of what you can put in there. So make sure you know that first before taking advantage of it. Okay, creating multiple streams of income, right? So yeah, when we're budgeting and thinking about money, we sometimes focus too much on the expenses side, like cut, which we do need to do, but we also need to focus on that inflow, right? And generate multiple streams of income. Right. Sometimes back in the day, I'll say things to my husband like, no, we can't afford that, or I can't afford that. And he said, why don't you switch your brain? Because once you say I can't afford it, you stop thinking, right? Switch your brain and say, how can I afford it? Right. So this brings us to the multiple sources of income. Passive income. I talked about real estate. The if you do investment in real estate, when you ask that question about best money advice, best financial advice that people have received, I'll share mine because it came from Robert Kiyosaki's wife about probably even 15 years ago, right? I've been investing in real estate for a long time. And she said to focus on cash flowing properties, right? No matter what, right? So don't invest because you think it's going to go up and you're going to make money. Yes, it will, right? But real estate investment is for the long term. Don't do it for that yo-yo that because you're just going to give yourself a heart attack if you're doing it for the market, right? So with the current times that we're seeing, with interest rate going up and prices coming down, a lot of people got in trouble with investing in pre-construction. But if you're really investing for cash flow purposes and you do your numbers and make sure that the property cash flows before you go into it, then no matter what happens to the market, you have some cash flow from the property. You're not as concerned. You're not as your heart is not beating each time something happens with the market. So that's where I got my advice from, and I just stuck to it. She's done really well with her husband in that regard. So you need to do the math, right? You need to do the math. Sometimes those pre-construction, they're just building one unit for you, right? If you're gonna rent that out, are you really going to cash flow from it, right? Whereas if you take a existing property, for example, what I do, I make sure that it has a basement, right? I can really separate it into two different units, really separate it, rent it out to two different families, right? And then use the cash flow from two units to pay the mortgage, pay all the bills of the house, and still be in a cash flow positive position. Right. So in my old house, we used to do that as well. We had a separate basement entrance and we were renting the basement. This is in Hamilton for 2,100. Right. So that on its own already was helping to pay the mortgage. Right. So that's the way to think about real estate investment and making sure you're cash flow positive. Right. So those pre-constructions, if you're buying it for investment purposes, they don't cash flow. So I wouldn't do it personally. Right. So that's one way to do it with and get passive income out the doors when you're thinking about multiple streams of income. And then for active income, you can there's many ways you can a lot of people have talents and again, God's put us here with unique skills that are for us, and if we really tap into the skills that God's put us here for, and you're really tapping into that and using that, it's easy, right? The work is easy. The work is like it's enjoyable. It doesn't feel like work, right? So I always challenge people, even if you're on the 9 to 5 employee person, right, to find that side hustle that can really help you generate additional income, right?
Yes. Well,
And then, of course, even Gen Z, we see Gen Z what they're doing with social media and really generating income from that. Okay, John 6:12. Gather up the broken pieces which are left over, that nothing be lost. Right. So again, this is talking about um, doing well with what God has given you. Right. with whatever God has given you. Make sure you're preserving everything, you're saving, you're investing. Gather up all the broken pieces. Don't leave nothing out.
A lot of us seem to have done things backwards, not doing the budgeting, not doing the savings, not doing the investing, none of that, but just spending.
Yes.
So, what's the sequence in which you advised again? Make a budget.
Yeah, make a budget and follow through, right? There's a lot of tools online that you can use. Your banking has apps. For me, I just use an Excel. Like you can even write it down, right? I use a spreadsheet. I see all my inflows, I see all my outflows, right? I plan for the year. I see how it goes periodically, and I'm, constantly looking at that, constantly revising that, right? So at least you have a roadmap of, what you need to do, where you're going. So that's a good way to start, right?
And
And
then, and then you also say put away a little bit. It doesn't matter how small it is. If you are an habitual smoker or drinker or whatever it is, and you said you can't save, at least those are avenues you can stop doing those bad habits and put those money
yeah.
to savings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself, right? But the initial part, you have to just be disciplined, right?
Yes.
I remember when I first got married, I used to like, Starbucks. I'll get my breakfast from there. I'll get my lattes from there. I used to like freshly squeezed orange juice. Those things add up, right? And my husband would look at me like, "What are you doing?"
One of the things I know is that many of us, I don't think it's taught in schools enough about investments and savings. I think it's a deliberate action by the bigger powers to keep that sort of teaching out of schools so that we become more a consumer economy. Or, we are consumers, we are constantly buying and not thinking about the bigger picture. Do you agree?
Yes, but we have the information
Mhm.
out there to educate ourselves, right? So now the information is everywhere, right? So instead of scrolling on social media mindlessly for hours every day, put 30 minutes to learn about this concept, from the Bible, from people who are doing it, right? There's no excuse, right? To really understand, you can sit with a financial advisor, you can, lots of podcasts out there, right? Lots of podcasts, lots of people that look like you, having podcasts and doing some of these teachings around.
A lot of people don't have the mindset, especially the young people who are in school, the new graduates, unless you come from a home in which these things are taken as priority. A lot of us go just not knowing,
Yeah.
not knowing anything about investments. How do you think we could, for young parents, what would you suggest that they that they do to begin
To
involving
begin the
their young?
conversation.
Yes.
There's a book that I bought for my kids.
Yes.
It's called the ABCs of money. So I have a 7-year old and a 4-year old. So
Mhm.
instead of doing A for apple, B for ball, you do A for asset, B for budget, C for cash, right?
Yes.
So that's the way to start the conversation. And some of those words are maybe big words that even some adults have to think about it. And it's a
Mhm.
good way to start. It's called ABCs of Money. I think you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And have that conversation in your home. Don't let money be a taboo topic in your home. It's not, like I said before, it's not reserved for certain few people, and the people that have it are not greedy, or they must be doing something wrong, or they must be committing a crime. We find excuses to not participate in this economy. Yeah.
It's so true. Are there any other advice you have to give? In
Yeah.
Yes.
hmm Start, right? Start from somewhere, right? Just start from somewhere, based on all the points that we mentioned today, right? Whichever one resonates the most with you, start with that. It could be credit. Maybe your credit is bad, and you're at 500 or 400s. You can get to 800, right? It is possible. You can do it in 6 months, right? So start from somewhere. So everybody's in different stages. Some people are already good with the budgets. Maybe they're scared about investing in real estate, but you can educate yourself, right? Educate yourself to remove those fears, right? Pray about it, and just start.
Definitely. And for the audience, though our conversation is primarily based in Ontario, it's not limited to Ontario. Money is something that we all spend.
Mm-hmm.
And the procedure for making changes in our lives is just the same. And thank God the Bible is really a source of wisdom.
Exactly.
Source of wisdom.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are. You can be investing anywhere you are. You can be investing in the real estate market anywhere you are.
Our audience, write down 3 things you'll do this week to improve on your financial situation.
Hey there, this is CHRY-TV, your go-to channel for the latest and greatest in Christian information. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated with all our amazing content. See you on the channel.
Thank you, Dami, for this presentation. There are some things that she said that really stood out in my mind. And the number one thing is, the first one I would say is budget. Doesn't matter how much money you have, make a budget of what you have so you know what's coming in and what's going out. Most important thing. The second important thing is that you should try to save. Doesn't matter how small an amount it is, but try to put away something for savings. Putting your money in the bank, it is not a source of investment. But there are sources of investment that your financial advisor could recommend. However, she recommends real estate as an excellent source of investment. And in my opinion, it is because prices of land, land will always appreciate in value. Another thing I would add is that don't take your money and buy expensive toys, especially if you're young and you're just going into the investment market. Use those money to build wealth. I noted throughout her presentation that she was using a series of biblical quotations to show that God is in the making, has been advising us on how to create wealth. And those were the points that I really noted. Please like and subscribe to chrytv.com. It will help us a long way. CHRY TV is on Roku, chrytv.com on our webpage, chrytv.tv is on Facebook and YouTube, as well as Instagram and TikTok. Please support us. May God bless you. Thank you so much. I ask that you make a comment in the comment section of this video. Let us know if you'd like to see Dami again.
How can people contact you if they need to?
Did I stop sharing my screen prior?
Mm-hmm.
I'll share my screen so that you can see my email.
So here it is. If you want to contact Dami, email address is Dami, charteredaccountant.com. That's our email, and our phone number, 905-966-5904 or 343-453-4609.
Thank you so much, Dami, for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Welcome.